There aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that.
Hey, welcome everyone to the Rebel Alliance podcast. My name is Aaron Bowman, and I'm your host for today, as always. And we are at episode 62, the ultimate guide to starting an unincorporated business. So hopefully the lighting's good. I didn't turn on the ring light or anything like that because I'm still waking up. It was a long night, long morning. Didn't get that much sleep, but I almost was going to cancel today because this dang website is giving me the hardest time. It won't restore the backup. But anyways, I said, you know what? I'm just going to down some coffee and we're going to get to business today. So that being said, thank you as always for joining me. I know we missed the episode yesterday, but I've been really trying to get some documents done for some individuals. I've been trying to do some consultation calls and then still trying to deal with this whole website migration thing. So that being said, let's get into a little of the housekeeping and then get this episode started. So as always, if you would like to get any more information on associations, if you'd like to get a copy of your own DIY templates, maybe you've heard about this document called the PMA Manifesto. Well, you can go over to themanifesto.com and you can connect with any of the Angela's over there, or Erica, or myself. That's a group that I work with. And you can also get DIY templates over there. You can pick up the PMA Manifesto. If you are part of the Facebook group, you actually can get a discount code for the PMA Manifesto. So search us on Facebook. Erica lets everybody in usually on a Wednesday once we go through and vet people. So every Wednesday, people get admitted. So if you jump on there today is Tuesday, right? Yeah, Wednesday, you should have access to the group, and then you can ask your questions in there. So not only do you get information from me, but you'll also get it from the other three ladies that I work with over there. So that being said, you can also get more information over at the East Coast PMA whenever this site is going to be back up and running. It has been giving me one hell of a go. But other than that, when it comes to taking back your computer sovereignty, like I think most of us are looking to do, to be tracked less online, to be able to operate as your own PayPal, to have end-to-end encrypted text messages that's at, some Jason Bourne level stuff, then you want to go over to the guys and gals over at the Start 9. I almost forgot who they were for a second. You want to go over to Start 9 and pick up one of their embassy servers and use the code Rebel Alliance to get 9% off at checkout. Now, that being said, let me kind of give you an update at where we're at with everything before we get going on all this. So today we are going to talk about unincorporated businesses and kind of where they play their role in all this. It's something I really haven't talked about before. It's kind of one of those things that kind of through research kind of popped their head up and was like, hey, take a look at me. So doing some research and putting some data together and some information, I figure I'd share that with you today. But I've been getting text messages about the website from a majority of you. I've been getting emails, and I know this has been one heck of an issue. So I had a web host server here in the States, and they were good. I've had problems here and there, and overall they were great, and I've had them for years for other different projects and stuff like that, mostly WordPress stuff. So they had a RAD driver go down, and I wasn't able to access the site for almost a week. Same with the PMA Manifesto. That is now back up. The RAD driver has been fixed. And so in that time, I said, I'm going to look at other options. And I know the Netherlands and Sweden have very good privacy laws. So I said, you know what? I'm going to look at servicing over there. It's fairly inexpensive. And so I transferred the domain over and got web hosting over there. Now, I was using an app called Backuply, so Backuply. So if any of you who run a web host server or WordPress, let me know what you use for backing up, because I've made backups, and my latest backup was as of February 15th at 8:25 p.m. And every time I go to load it, I get to like 99%, and then it screws up the whole website, and then I have to start over again. So hopefully after this podcast, I can get working on that, because it's been driving me nuts that it is not up and I can't get the content out there because not everybody's on Telegram and Facebook. So it makes it very difficult. So hopefully within the next day or two, the domain and everything's been transferred. I can actually get it up and running. And I thought I had it early this morning, but what was happening is for some reason on my computer when I logged in, it was bringing me to the old server when I would type in East Coast PMA or the admin. But on my phone, it was bringing me to the new server. So there was just confusion all around. So that being said, thank you all for joining. Let me jump into the comments here. And that is let's see, ARJ, thanks for swinging by. And I'll put your stuff up on screen in a little bit. But that being said, today we're going to talk about, unincorporated businesses. What are they? Where do they have their place? How do they work? What's the different types? Because I get a lot of people that are individuals, lone wolves, whatever you want to call them, and they want to have an association. And we know that associations are usually run by two or more people, and it's a group of people coming together for a collective good. Now, let me see while we're doing this if I can find the LLC that it has to be registered with the government. I cannot remember what it is called. I did a talk about this a few weeks ago, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it real quick while I'm looking here. Um, all right, yeah. So I think it's the treasurer website. Yeah, it has it. If I can find it, I'll put it in the show notes. But it has to do with the U.S. Treasury Department, I believe. And basically, they want to know more information about your LLC if you have one formed, if you have a typical corporation and you own certain percentage of it, or you operate within that certain percentage of that LLC. You have to have it on file, and if you don't, you're going to be fined and stuff like that. So a lot of people have been like, I don't want to do this, even though your information is already at the state level. It's like redundancy, and they say they're doing it to keep money laundering from happening and stuff like that. But apparently, they don't look towards the White House for any of that stuff. So that being said, I started digging into more of the unincorporated businesses because not everybody has somebody that they want to run an association with. Not everybody, wants to work with somebody else. Maybe somebody just wants to be a plumber or have a farm stand or what have you. So I will also post some of the stuff from jurisprudence and some of the stuff that I use to put together today's talk. And if I'm bumbling over my words, it's because I'm running on 2.5 hours of sleep. So forgive me. So that being said, an unincorporated business are entities that have not undergone a formal process of incorporation. Now, why is that important? Because if you go, let's say, even to, well, yeah, I would even assume right now with Wyoming's anonymous LLCs, you still have to follow these guidelines for this whole money laundering thing through the U.S. I believe it's the U.S. Treasury Department, and if I will find all the stuff and put it in the show notes for you, but if you have a typical LLC, S corp, something like that, you have to be registered with the state level. You now apparently with the federal level, so they know where your money's coming and going. Should you be audited, and they can make sure you as a small mom and pop is not money laundering money to or through Ukraine. So, being that can have an unincorporated business and it's not formally incorporated at any level, kind of like your association, your unincorporated association is not formalized anywhere, it's not on file anywhere. This might make a good opportunity or a good decision for you if you want to run your business that way. So these businesses are typically characterized by their simplicity, flexibility, and the direction control or the direct control they offer to their owners. Now, the most common types of unincorporated businesses, and you're going to probably be like, I didn't realize that was an unincorporated business, are sole proprietorships, general partnerships, and limited partnerships. So one of the things you're probably going off in your head right now is, well, if I have a sole proprietorship, then I'm going to be on the hook for things like any type of legal action. There's not that limited liability, which you would have when you incorporate. So that's one thing that we'll talk about going through this. So the sole proprietorship is the simplest form of an unincorporated business and is owned by a single individual. So I suggest when I talk to a lot of people that, if they're looking to do something that's more commerce based and not really an association based, even though commerce happens within associations, if they're starting a massage therapy, natural homeopathic healing, maybe Reiki. I always call it Reiki. It's not Reiki, it's Reiki, something along those lines. Then maybe they want to start off and have proof of concept by doing the sole proprietorship. There's almost next to none as far as organizational paperwork for yourself because it's just you're yourself in the fence post, basically in this situation, and you're controlling over everything. Now, the owner has absolute control over all the business decisions and is personally liable for all business debt and obligations. So, if you were to go out and get a loan, instead of getting a small business loan that might be done through the LLC, it's now being done through you. So, you would be personally guaranteeing that loan. So those are some of the things that you have to think about. So that being said, there's a few of us on today. Thanks for jumping on. Let me know where you're watching from. And I almost spilt my coffee because I'm a hot mess today. So that being said, while we're going through this, pop your questions in the chat if you have any. And, I will take a look at them at the very end and go through and answer any of the questions you might have. So that being said, this means the owner's personal assets can be used to satisfy business debts. The income or loss of the business is reported on the owner's personal income tax. So, like a single-membered LLC, this is going to be passed through income. And you can tell that I'm tired today because I forgot to give my disclaimer that anything you hear does not constitute tax or legal advice. It's just one person's thought on the topic. So there we go. That's out of the way. So getting started or proofing a concept, if you want to have maybe a homestead or you want to have a farm stand or you want to do some type of teaching, whether it's baking, sewing, music lessons, something along those lines where you're working within your community. Maybe you have already an association that you've joined and now you're looking to provide some of your talents to your members. Starting off with the unincorporated business as a sole proprietorship might be the best way to go do this. Well, I'm going to try, RJ, I'm going to answer these at the end. I'm going to try not to look over there and answer them as we go along because it's going to get me off track. So just stick with me to the end. I appreciate it. So this might be a good way to get you started. Now, like a single member LLC, with the single member LLC, you do have that limited liability protection, but as a single member, it's all looked at as pass-through income. So when you do your taxes at the end of the year, it all be reported on your personal taxes if there's anything left over. So that's kind of how that works. Now, there's ways we can tie this in with other things, whether it's an unincorporated business trust or maybe it's just a direct trust or something along those lines, where you can kind of put a couple different entities together. You may not have the same protection as a limited liability company as if you were to register something through, Wyoming, like I've done and I've told others to do, where it's an anonymous LLC. You have a registered agent in that state, and you get all those privacy benefits of being incorporated in Wyoming. But again, this is why we need to have these conversations when you call, because each situation is going to be different. Hey, Dustin, thanks for jumping on. Appreciate you seeing on here. So the next one is going to be a general partnership. And this is a business arrangement where two or more individuals known as general partners agree to conduct business together. So this is very similar to an association. It might even sound, some of the wording is almost the same, where it's two or more people coming together for a common goal. So, the last couple of videos we talked about the difference between association and assembly and that sort of thing. And this is just a general partnership. So almost be the equivalent of something being incorporated would be, like an LLP or something along those lines, where you have a limited liability partnership. So two or more individuals get together for a general business to conduct business together. Each partner contributes to the business in their terms of capital, labor, and skill, and share in the profit and loss. So if there's two of you and you have $10,000 left over at the end of the year after you pay all your taxes, or not your taxes, but you pay all your overhead, all your deductions, everything like that, and there's profit of $10,000, then each of you would claim $5,000 on your personal income, is the way that I understand it and the way that I would do it personally. Now, I'm not a CPA, so you might want to talk to a CPA if you're looking at doing something like that. Now, on the other hand, the limited partners contribute capital and share in the profits, do not participate in the management of the business. Their liability is limited to the extent of their capital contribution. I'm sorry. No, I'm getting ahead of myself. So each partner, now going back to general partnership, I jumped ahead to limited partners. So the general partners, each partner contributes to the business in the terms of capital, labor, skill, and share of profit and loss. Similar to a sole proprietorship, general partners are personally liable for the business debt and obligations. So again, if there's two of you now, you both are on the hook for anything that might arise. Let's say you go and take out a small loan for the business to buy equipment. Maybe you're doing some cottage industry type sewing, or you are, making some tactical gear or something like that that you're going to sell locally and then, to a larger community. Whatever that is, you got to understand that doing it as an unincorporated business is going to put both of you kind of, you're not going to have really any shielding unless you kind of incorporate it with a few other things. And this is, where you have to take a look at it and say, okay, do I want to file and be compliant with the U.S. Treasury with their new thing that came out for 2024? So I think if you have a business prior to that, a registered LLC, you have to the end of the year. If you start a new LLC in 2024, you have 90 days from the time that you started to get registered with their fraud site. It's their fraud site or something like that. I'll see if I can find it. I can't really talk and type, so we'll see what I can do. But that way again, they can make sure that there is no money laundering going on, being that you are a small operation as opposed to some of the larger, government agencies that launder money. So, you have to look at it. Am I more concerned about that because they're already just getting the information that's already on file with the Secretary of the State, wherever you filed your associate or your limited liability company. So it's kind of redundancy. It doesn't make any sense to me, other than that they can look at seeing who is a conservative business at a grander level and maybe use that for targeting of some sort. Or are you more concerned, or, is that a bigger concern than being personally liable for something? So you're going to have to weigh these two options out. I can't tell you which way to go. That's just going to be up to you. Now, the third one that we can look at is a limited partnership. So you can kind of think of this as somebody that comes in with the money, right? So this is a form of partnership that includes both general partners and limited partners. General partners manage the business and are personally liable for the business debt. On the other hand, the limited partners contribute capital and share in the profits, but do not participate in the management of the business. So they're kind of like a silent partner that you might have heard kicked around before. So it's those individuals coming in and saying, hey, I've got money to back what you're doing. You two, whoever it is, are going to run the general partner side of things. You're going to run the day-to-day operations. You're going to take care of, the labor, the skills, the profit, the losses. And then this individual who comes in with the money, they get to share in the profits, but do not participate in the management of the business. So their liability is limited to the extent of the capital that they contribute. So that's just a couple of the different ones that we're going to look at. Let's see here if I got some other points I want to take a look at here. So again, we have the sole proprietorship for the unincorporated business. We have a partnership, and you could have it as limited partners, limited partnership, or cooperative. Now, when we're looking at this, I know I'm going to get this question about taxation. Let's just call this like the real 100,000-foot view, because it's going to be probably different in every area that you're in. So taxation in most jurisdictions for unincorporated businesses are taxed directly from the corporations. In a sole proprietorship partnership, the profits of the business are typically reported on the owner's personal tax return, and the business itself does not pay taxes separately. It is often referred to as a pass-through taxation because the business profits are passed through to the owners for taxation. So just kind of keep that in mind. Think of it as if you already have a single member LLC, they're going to be run pretty much the same way when it comes to taxes, from what I've read and what I've put together. But the biggest difference is this is for the people who don't want to be in compliance with the new regulations that came out for people who own more. I think it's more than 25% in an LLC. And they have certain members. There are some exclusions for that, but to be registered with the Treasury Department, again, this is, I think, a way for the powers to be to target individuals that might be more freedom-minded, that might be more conservative. So, and if anybody in the chat knows what I'm talking about, I cannot remember the exact terminology for that. So if you guys could, if you are in front of a computer and you can look that up, I believe it's the Treasury Department, that would be super, super helpful. So, again, we have flexibility and, like we talked about, the flexibility is, you're pretty much open to run it how you want, because it's either you as a sole proprietorship or you and a partner. And again, you probably should have some forming documents, just like you would with an LLC that is corporated or incorporated. You'd have your bylaws, your articles of organization, that sort of thing. minutes of your meeting. So just because you're doing it this way, it doesn't mean you're just kind of, doing it all willy nilly, so to speak. You want to make sure that you still have, documents put together to basically explain how everything works and where the money's going and how it's being broken up. So, here a little bit more on the taxes. For the sole proprietorship, from what I put together, the tax reporting in a sole proprietorship, the business owner and the businesses are considered the same entity for tax purposes. Business income and expenses are reported on the owner's personal tax returns, we said before, and that's going to be done on a Schedule C Form 1040. You are also going to be responsible for self-employment tax. And then if there are, let's see, so self-employment tax, sole proprietors are generally subject to self-employment tax, which covers Social Security and Medicare. And this is why I always talk about using alternative forms of payment, i.e. Lightning, Bitcoin, something along those lines, silver, gold, Liberty dollars, or, good old-fashioned hand-to-hand cash. But again, that's completely up to you and how you want to run your business. These taxes are typically paid quarterly and are based on the net income of the business. Sole proprietorships, as far as tax deduction, which is important. So my thing that when I ever talk with anybody is that if you have a business, whether it's a registered LLC, typically incorporated, whether it's in your state or it's in Wyoming, like I suggest, because they have great privacy laws and they're anonymous out there, or you're doing something as a sole proprietorship or a contracted employee as a 1099, you're basically working for yourself, and you want to make sure you're keeping track of any deductions that you have, because you will always pay less in taxes as a person that owns a business than you would if you were somebody that was a W-2 employee, because you could write everything off. So like with my real estate stuff, when I go out with people and we're talking real estate and we're having a dinner or a meeting, I write a portion of that off. I write those expenses off: cell phone, energy, maintenance for vehicles, all that type of stuff. And you're always going to pay less in taxes than you would. And I mean, look at all the filthy rich, right? They pay almost nothing in taxes because that tax code is written for people that own businesses, and that 90% of the tax code is what not to do. And there's that big small portion, or that smaller portion of like, hey, this is how you don't have to pay taxes. So just keep that in mind. So sole proprietorship can deduct business expenses from their taxable income, reducing the amount of taxes owed. Common deductions include expenses related to business operations, such as supplies, equipment, and home office expenses. Now, when we start talking about the partnership, it's going to be very similar. Partnerships are a pass-through entity for tax purposes, meaning the business itself does not pay taxes. Instead, the profit and losses are passed through to the individual partners, who report their share of income on the loss on their personal taxes. The biggest difference here is the form that you're going to fill out would be a K-1 or a Form 1065 for partnerships, which outline their share of the partnership income, deductions, credits, and other tax returns. So that's also important. And then again, you're still going to have the employment tax. Now the deductions, because there's two of you, both the sole proprietor and the partners can take advantage of various tax deductions, credits to reduce their taxable income, which again is going to make you pay less in taxes, which is huge. So, again, if any of you who are on, if you have a chance, can you please take a look at, I think it's the Treasury Department that is requiring those who own incorporated businesses to be registered by the end of 2024. They face fines. I can't remember the exact, it's like, it starts with an F. I can't remember the federal something act. I can't remember exactly what it is, but this is a reason why people are going to be interested in these unincorporated businesses. And you're going to need to weigh whether you're more concerned about liability or being personally liable for things. But it's going to have the advantages. If you're personally liable for it, you're not being registered at the state or federal level, so you don't have to deal with all that compliance. So anyways, going back to this, they may include deductions of business expenses, retirement contributions, health insurance premiums, and more. Additionally, there may be specific tax credits available to certain types of businesses, such as small business healthcare tax credit for providing health insurance. And then let's see here. What else do we have? Estimated taxes. Since unincorporated businesses do not have taxes withheld from their income like employees do, business owners are generally required to make estimate tax payments through the year to cover their liability. These payments are typically made quarterly and are based upon the expended income of self-employment liability. And I don't know why the university is calling me right now, but they're just going to have to wait. So that's some of the tax parts of it when it comes to the sole proprietorship and the partnership. So now comes the question, is this something that I want to do? Is this something that I think is important? Is it more important for me to have these unincorporated business structures set up, or to to be more concerned about the liability? I can't answer that question for you. Really, it's going to come down to what you're looking to do and what your business is. Because as I've turned other people away before and said, hey, listen, an association, there's only one of you. You're looking to do this by yourself. You really need to have two or more that are running the association, and then you're bringing members into your association. And yes, commerce can happen within the associations. That's not necessarily what they're typically set up for. It just kind of naturally happens that way. So, for example, you might have somebody that has a homestead and they have an association set up. And not only do they teach classes, but it also allows their members to purchase eggs, dairy, that sort of thing, cheese, soap, what have you, through the association because they're joining it, kind of like a CSA, but at a more private level, as opposed to somebody that might say, you know what, I'm just starting off. So, like I said earlier, for those of you who are just jumping on now, maybe you need to do a proof of concept. Like you have this concept, you're going to do massage therapy and alternative health solutions. So instead of starting right off with the association, maybe you start off as a sole proprietorship or a partnership with somebody, making sure that this is actually something feasible that can keep a roof over your head, pay your bills. And then, that doesn't mean you can't have an association that goes along with it. And this is where we bring in usually the anonymous LLC, because I feel that that's kind of important depending on what your risk level is, to have some of that liability protection and then have the association in the background, or having a unincorporated business trust kind of hold the association, kind of like an LLC. But again, now that's unincorporated, it's not registered anywhere, but then you have to comply, or you have to make sure you're running the trust correctly and you have your grantor, your beneficiary, your trustees, stuff like that. So again, this is why I always tell everybody it's important that you ask your questions on here, in the Telegram group, in the Facebook group, whether it's with through East Coast PMA or the PMA Manifesto, because there's so many different ways of looking at something. It's not cookie cutter like you'll see on a lot of sites that are pushing associations, and they'll tell you, hey, you can have your plumbing business as an association. Well, you could try that. I don't know how well it's going to work out for you, but I would think there's better ways of skinning that cat that can still keep the privacy aspect of it while still providing some protection. Now, again, with the unincorporated businesses, it's not going to provide you any of the protection that you would have when it comes to liabilities, like you would with a limited liability corporation that is registered at the state. And now that has to be at the federal level. So, that's kind of my take on the unincorporated businesses. I am going to post all the stuff I pulled out of the American jurisprudence and other documents through Westlaw and some of the other legal libraries that I thumb around in while going through school. So as soon as I get this darn website up and running properly, I'm sorry, I put everything out on Telegram that it was up and running and it's not. So I lied to you about that one, and I apologize. But I'll have all this documentation up there so you can actually read it yourself and look at what I'm pulling from. So just keep in mind, the biggest thing is that there are ways of doing stuff. If you don't want to comply with this, federal treasury act, it's driving me nuts. I can't think of the name of it. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. And that way there, let's see, federal business act. I don't know if that's going to bring it up for me, but uh, let's see. Now, maybe we can do 2024. I don't know. If I can't find it, I'm not going to waste any. That's 2004, Aaron. We don't want that. Yeah, I'm not going to waste any more time trying to find that, because guys and gals don't want to sit here and watch me or listen to me try to um, find this stuff. Let's see. Maybe we're gonna get to it here. Let's see. Um, there we go. Here it is. The Financial Crimes Enforcement Network of 2024. I knew I'd find it. There it is. So this is a crime here. I'm going to put it in the chat for all of you so you can Google it and read it yourself. For those of you who may not know about it, because they're really not talking about it. If you have a LLC or anything like that, come on, computer, work with me here. So there you go. I just threw it in the chat for you. And this is what I was talking about. So by the end of 2024, if my memory serves me right, if you have had an LLC prior to and you own a certain portion of it, you're the single member, you're a silent partner, what have you, you're in it some way, shape, or form. You have to be registered through the Financial Crimes Enforcement network. This is through the Treasury Department, if my memory serves me right. And then if you have a business started in 2024, you have 90 days to be in compliance. Once you do it, you can fill out your information once, and then just say you're part of all these all these LLCs. Now, some people don't want to do that, right? They're like, okay, I've already if I file an LLC, whether it's in Wyoming or in Delaware or in Connecticut here, New York, Massachusetts, already on the file with the Secretary of the State. Why do I have to do this again? And really, it's just in my opinion, so they can track at the federal level who's a conservative, who's spending money on what, where's your money going, and then because none of us, as far as I don't know anybody to launder money. So I don't think most of us do. I think it's people that are putting this in place are the ones that are laundering the money, as we can see through the People's White House and what's going on there with that crime family. But that being said, this might be an alternative to adding something to your association. If you're looking to do an unincorporated association, maybe we add in unincorporated business to that. Most of the time, I think it's going to be either the sole proprietorship or the partnership. I definitely think it's easier sometimes to run things with somebody else. But again, that's going to dictate on what your needs are, or maybe it's just we still go the route of the anonymous LLC or the unincorporated business trust. These are all different things that we can put together. It's not like you have to just pick one. You can use a majority of these tactics to be able to try to shield yourself as much as possible from the tyrannical overreach of the government, and to keep as much privacy as you can. So let's see. Any questions in the Facebook? I don't even know if anybody's on Facebook watching. Let me pop over there real quick and see what's going on in the group. Why do I have so many messages on Facebook right now? And yes, I was looking for chicken coops on Facebook. So let me just bear with me here and jump into the East Coast PMA. So again, I will have more information of this on the let's see. No, all right. So I will have more information on this on the website eastcoastpma.com as soon as I get it worked out. I'm really trying not to start from scratch. I'm really trying to get it from the backup. So hopefully that'll happen today. And then if you want more information on associations and stuff like that, meantime, feel free to jump over to the PMA manifesto with the ladies I work with over there. And again, you can get your DIY templates and stuff like that. Now, if you're wondering if I have any founding documents set up for unincorporated businesses, at this current time, I do not, because I'm really trying to get this website set up. So that's something I'm working on. It'll probably be a template based. Again, like anything else, you don't need to consult with me or use any of the documents that we provide. You can write this up yourself. It's going to be very similar to like your articles of organization and your bylaws and stuff like that you would have with an association. Because again, if you are running a business, you want to make sure that things are outlined, maybe a business plan, all those things that go that get involved with running a successful business. It's just that I think that with the unincorporated businesses, it's a way for us to still maintain some of that anonymity, that we're not putting all of our stuff on file somewhere at the state level. Now, again, if you're going to go get a bank account or anything like that, it's going to be through your. Well, no, I take that back. You can get an EIN number for a sole proprietorship or partnership, so you can get that EIN just like you would for an association. Fill out the SS4 form. Right? My brain might be getting that backwards. Yeah, SS4 form. And then you can get an EIN for your unincorporated business. And then you can go open up your banking and checking accounts and everything like that. But again, the biggest thing you have to remember is, are you more concerned about being filed at the federal level with the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network? Or are you more concerned about, is that really something that like, I don't want to be on record with any of that stuff, so I'm going to do the unincorporated business route? Just keep in mind, I would get some type of umbrella insurance policy or something, just in case some type of liability issue happens. You don't want to lose everything you have. And that's why a lot of people go to the LLCs, because it kind of puts up that shield. Like in the real estate world, you see a lot of individuals that have rentals, right? So a lot of real estate investors, they may have three multifamily homes, right, under one LLC. It might be, Main Street LLC, and there's property 1, 2, and 3 on the Scheduled A, right? So that is all somebody can sue for if somebody falls and trips down the stairs or something like that because the landlord or the person that owns the building didn't put up a railing, right? So you want to limit your liability, and that's why a lot of people still go towards the LLCs. Now, again, I get it. A lot of us are like, we're tired of our information being everywhere. We want to be more private. We want to be left the hell alone. I don't want you to tell me what I have to do with my business. I don't want to be registered here. I just want to be able to exist and provide for my family and my community. And maybe that being said, this is a good way of doing it using those incorporated businesses or unincorporated businesses rather, along with maybe an association, stuff like that. Or maybe if you have an association, you bring this up to the other individual. Maybe you have somebody that is a homesteader. You have one person that has chickens. Maybe you have somebody else that makes jam, whether it's elderberry syrup or strawberry jam or what have you. Or maybe you have somebody that does car repair, somebody that's a welder, a electrician. Maybe you have all these people that are doing different things within your community, and you can say, "Hey, listen, here's an opportunity for you. You know, maybe this is better than running the LLC because now you're kind of off radar, so to speak." But again, there's still the ways of having to comply with the taxes and all that stuff. And I think maybe 2025. When we get to 2025, that might be the year I work at trying to get my house off the tax roll. But we'll see the homestead here. But anyways, so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. So RJ wants to know, will this work in Canada? I know associations work in Canada because you guys have the Canadian Charter of Rights, and it's very similar to our Bill of Rights. The wording, I will have to look into that as far as the sole proprietorships, the limited part or the partnerships, and the limited partnerships. I would assume, and we know when people assume things, it makes an ass out of you and me. I get that, but because things are so similar, north of us and here, that I would imagine it's the same. I will do some digging around in that and see if I can find anything out. And again, as soon as I get that website up and running again, I will put that on the website. So wow, we got 9 on today. I got to say thank you all for coming. This was, huge. I don't think we've had 9 people on a show yet. I appreciate it. And hopefully once all this website stuff is straightened out, we will be more consistent on our time here. But so yeah, RJ in Canada, let me just pop this up on the screen here. I don't know 100%. I can't tell you 100% if it will work. I would believe it would. And I'm going to do a little more research for you just because, hey, Frozen Dog, thanks for stopping by again. I think it would, just because associations, unincorporated associations are, you guys have that right of association through the Canadian Charter of Rights. I'm assuming it's very similar. I would just have to dig into it a little bit more. Luckily, we have nobody on here from Australia because I have no idea in Australia. I get a lot of questions about Australia, but luckily I'm going to be working with somebody across the pond over in Australia. They're going to be coming on once a month. We're going to kind of be doing like a roundtable. We're just going to talk about associations, common law, contract law, all that type of stuff, but they are using international law to have associations set up over in Australia. And that is just something that I have not dipped my toe into yet. So I am not writing associations over there, but I am passing it over to them because they are living in Australia and they have a really good grasp on things that we've talked before. So that being said, yeah, thanks everybody for jumping on today. I really don't know unless some of y'all have questions, this would be the time to ask them. Kind of like, last call at the bar. For those of you who still go out to bars, I'm going to be 46 in March. I don't go out to bars anymore. Plus I got 5 kids. So I'm home a lot more than I am out. But that being said, again, some of the, while we're waiting to see if anybody has any questions here, or just say, hey, I'm listening from wherever. I'd appreciate that too. Again, with the unincorporated businesses, they do have some advantages and disadvantages. I think the biggest disadvantage is you are, in most cases, liable for any debts or anything like that, as opposed to if you had an incorporated LLC, it would be the LLC or the S Corp or the C Corp or the limited partnership. The LLP would be liable for it, right? What's great about it is you have a level of control directed by the owners. The risk level of the owners are, and it was also that risk level of the owners that they're willing to assume. You also have to understand the consideration of legal and tax implications before deciding the most suitable form of business. So the unincorporated business fundamentally refers to any business that has not been formally registered as a corporation. So again, that includes sole proprietorships, partnerships, and not limited liability companies. I don't know why I wrote that in there. But that being said, I think that having that freedom to run your business how you want as an individual or a partnership, and not being incorporated at the local or federal level, not being part of the financial crimes enforcement network, unless you're doing something like uh, building houses or decks or something where you could really place yourself at not that anybody can sue for anything, but really, maybe if you have to take out a bunch of loans, maybe it's not the best idea to do an unincorporated business because you don't personally want to guarantee those loans. Even though most cases, if you have a small LLC, you're just starting off, you're going to have to personally guarantee that stuff anyways. Um, but I think these are definitely a way for people to get that business going, that idea that maybe they've had in the back of their head. Maybe they are looking at other ways of bringing in income. Like I do stuff with American Communication Network or ACN. I do a lot of it with my real estate side, and then I also do it with individuals that I talk to. So I get a residual income every month based off that, and it's just a great way of doing it. Let's see here. So we got to let's see what is the cost to do a review of assessment. Not quite sure what you mean by assessment or maybe association. It really depends on how many pages I have to read and go through who did your documents. So like if I know you used a couple of the other less reputable people out there, anybody that starts, the first name is starts with a D, like David or anything like that, most likely those are just going to be documents that are passed around or stolen from other individuals. So they were set up by one organization and then they decided to say, hey, I'm going to write associations for people. And they just use the same darn document and just swapped out some names and maybe added a period or deleted a paragraph and basically paid to have an association set up, and they're just using the documents to set them up for others. That's a lot of the stuff that we see out there. Usually, any of the anything that has the word institute in it or PMA in it, it really depends on who you got your documents from. Most of the time, they're all the same. They don't include a lot of the stuff that the ladies and myself have put in the DIY templates, or when we write them ourselves for people or help people write them. I've rewritten a bunch, and a lot of them are word for word the same. And I can just say like, oh, you got it from this person. I can tell you that they're garbage and they're written poorly, and they don't cover a lot of the things that you need to have covered. Especially some of the things like if you are running an association. We just met with our members the other night. We had a potluck here at the homestead, and we had a new member come out with his family. And so, kind of what we do for us is we have a potluck, and anybody that's interested in joining Liberty House comes out, and we get to meet them. They get to meet the other members, get to see if they kind of connect or kind of fit uh, our goals and what we're looking to do with the community-based association. And then we then hold our business. So then they leave at some point. We thank them for coming out, and then we have our business that we attend to our members meeting, and then we vote on having them join and that sort of thing. That's what we just did a few days ago. Oh no, about a week ago now. So within that, you have to have documents that explain what happens if you have a member that joins, then their alignment doesn't align with the association anymore, or maybe they start to become toxic within that group and they start to be causing more problems than helping out or anything like that. You got to have it in writing how you're going to remove people or how you're going to have people leave the association or any type of dispute resolution. And that's a lot of things you're not going to see in any of the documents that you get from anybody else, whether it's the Genoa Institute to any of the Davids to who are the people out of Texas? I can't think of their names now. It'll come to me. Advocates, maybe is it something advocates? I don't remember what their names are now, but they're all different. And I've seen documents, like I've said before in other videos, that cost $250. I've seen the $10,000 documents, and those $10,000 documents were written for somebody in Texas, and they referenced the Vermont Constitution, which didn't make any sense to me, but maybe they were able to explain that to the client when they were helping them. So yeah, it just depends. Reach out to me, shoot me an email, shoot me a text. All my information's everywhere. So, and then, if it's something you really want me to go through, or you want to have a conversation, schedule a time with me to have a conversation, because my time gets booked up or I'm dealing with stuff like this website issue. But yeah, it really just depends. I'm still working on stuff like that because I've had a few people where I've been consulting with, and I'm really, I'm not, like I tell everybody, I don't want anybody to feel they can't have an association or anything else, or work with me because maybe they don't have the funds available. I'm not in this for the money. I'm in this to help people live a more free life and to be able to help build their communities around them. And yes, I prefer to get paid for my time and my energy and my resources that I put in this, because it does take time away from my family. So I have to justify it a little bit like, hey guys, dad's got to do this for a little bit. But in doing so, this is going to help provide us to get that new building on the property, or, that sort of thing. So I don't want anybody to ever think that I'm in this just for the cashola. Like some of these individuals out here, I do a lot of, I guess we could call it pro bono stuff, where I spend a lot of time talking to people and helping them out without charging a single cent. So, but again, that's just, kind of my view take on this is that, we're in all this together. We need to understand how this stuff works together, and we need to be able to help build these communities, because in tomorrow's video, it's going to be all doom and gloom. So make sure you stop by, because the doom and gloom stuff really seems to everybody likes that kind of stuff, I guess, a little bit to some extent, that dystopia. But there's a lot of craziness right now going on in this world, and everything is up is down and down is up, and we're going to talk about some of that stuff tomorrow. And of course, I'm going to tie it into how either an unincorporated business, a unincorporated association, can then kind of help correct some of these things, hopefully. So that being said, we're at about 45 minutes all. Thank you for listening and stopping in, and thank you for stopping in from Tennessee, Missouri, Canada. I think that's the first international person we've had on the live. I appreciate it. And tomorrow will probably be the same time, 2:30 East Coast time, Eastern Standard Time. And I will get all that stuff up so you can see what the live topic's going to be, whether you're watching on Rumble, Facebook group, or YouTube. And make sure you have your questions, leave comments, all that stuff. Please share this with others that might find this information interesting. And again, if you have any topics you want me to talk about, whether it's, maybe it's something to do with contract law, or just common, like everybody calls it, common law in general, or maybe you want to go over some cases that deal with associations, we can do that too on here. I don't mind talking about that stuff. And as they say, knowledge is power, and there's a lot of bad information out there. So what I'm trying to do is make sure you all and myself have the correct information, so we can stand up to this tyrannical government overreach and live a more free and less intrusive life from the government. So that being said, everyone, thanks for stopping by today. I appreciate it. We had 9 on today. Maybe we can break 10 tomorrow. That would be awesome. And I will see you on the next video. Peace.
Uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.